advised, and I've been thinking about this, that it would be quite inappropriate for you as the spokesperson, indeed the cabinet member for health, to have the first word on this. You can maybe have the last word on this with your questions, and it would be more appropriate for the committee itself to have primacy. So I do apologise if there's any misunderstanding there. So can I just have hands again? Chloe, I spotted you first.
Thank you very much, Chair. I've got a couple of questions and a reflection. I'm hearing slightly conflicting messages in terms of, the case for change not suggesting solutions, but then a plan, quite a fully formed plan being suggested. So, I perhaps ask Marie that in the co-design process, there could be consideration of the rural context, because the statistics that you talk about and the way you talk about it feels quite urban and doesn't feel like you're talking about rural Gloucestershire. And coming from Stroud, that's very important to us. And also that the co-design really, gets into that, and that it is a co-design and not a fully formed plan that's put in front of people, that there's still a chance for change. But in terms of my questions, looking at the data in one of the two reports that's attached, the stats for births over the past few years in a home birth and community setting context, yes, the average is in fact just over 2 over that period, but that does include periods of closure for some of the relevant units. So I'm wondering, is 2 the right number? Because births obviously don't come at an average, they will come in a fluctuation, and if even the average is above 2 and that includes periods of closure, I'm concerned that 2 won't cut it, so would appreciate comments on that. And secondly, in relation to postnatal beds in Stroud, that's always been part of the offer and a really important thing for the local community and a reason why people choose Stroud. So it's upsetting to see that's not part of this consideration and doesn't even seem to have a time frame attached to it. So I wonder, is there any sense of when that will be considered? And really would like to understand why it's not part of the current consultation. Thank you.
Shall I start, Mark, and then I'll hand over to him? Thank you very much for all of those questions and reflections. So in terms of the rurality question and co-design, absolutely. So the health needs assessment data was all our own data and also national data. So as I said, looking at national policy, national direction of travel, etc. But the case for change and then subsequent options will be based on all our data. So both the urban data and the rural data. So I totally agree with you there. We're very conscious that we want this to be co-designed. So Helen talked about, the financial envelope and what is, we want to take models from all over the country to say actually what works well within the financial envelope. But we also want to deliver what will meet the needs of women in Gloucestershire. So absolutely this has got to be co-designed and co-designed by women, but also co-designed with clinicians and other stakeholders in terms of, as I said, the national policy, what's going on nationally in terms of we get it right for women. In terms of, I'm sure Mark will come on to, well, I'll talk about the postnatal beds to start with. So the postnatal beds will be part of our case for change and phase 3, I'll call it, going forward. They're not in the immediate community transformation proposed by Gloucester Hospitals Trust. And that was taken for a number of reasons, mostly because there was immediate patient safety issues in the home birth service. So the committee I came to, which was the last but one, I think, Kevin McNamara as the chief exec and Matt Holdaway did talk through the immediate safety issues in terms of the home birth service. And the home birth service could not be reopened without a looking across at all of the workforce, particularly the midwifery workforce. So that's why the model that Professor Mark Petroni just outlined could work well. Also, we were very conscious that we were one of the only places in the country that didn't have a model like that for 24/7 access to midwifery-led birth units in the form that Professor Petroni outlined. So we're very conscious that we've had closure of the postnatal beds and they will form part of the ongoing consultation within the next phase of the case for change. If Mark wants to add anything to that.
Just briefly on numbers, staffing numbers to activity is obviously something that the NHS works very hard at, and I accept your point, staffing to an average is unlikely to meet the needs of a population. We tend to staff to a median as a result. The last time we had 2 deliveries on average was 5 years ago, but the point of the model is that it allows us to increase the numbers. It also allows, I've said there were 3B on call, there'll be a 4th midwife who can be called from the Gloucester site, and the point is that if you want your most experienced midwives doing your home births, because obviously they're not in a facility that they normally work in, and by the model will allow them to rotate through the Gloucester birth unit and maintain their skills, maintain links and relationships with other staff, which are also an important part of staff safety. Your point about inequality, I think, is vital, and Gloucestershire is an interesting county when it comes to inequality. There's obviously urban deprivation, particularly in Gloucester, also to some extent in Cheltenham, but rurality is a key issue, and particularly in terms of access to healthcare. And again, this model does allow at least the provision of the same service everywhere in the county, and recognising that might need to change following the consultation that comes out of the case for change. But just final point, if I might, Chair, it's worth remembering that prior to the suspension of the home birth service, we were only meeting 50% of the requests for home deliveries because of staffing issues, because of the anxieties amongst our midwifery staff themselves. And so re-establishing home births and choice of a midwifery-led unit in Cheltenham or Gloucester is a key step in re-establishing a normal offer to a county. And the model does not preclude, it doesn't exclude anything that might come out of the consultation after the case for change.
Is there a view from?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I think what was really important, and the question about, why isn't everything in this and the beds. If I can explain, I think from a commissioning perspective, what I have asked of the Trust is that which can be opened and should be opened, because women have not had those services available for too long, we should work to open. And that's really what this proposal is very focused on. That which can be opened should be opened. It does not prejudge the outcome of the case for change, and therefore absolutely the case for change is the longer term view. The alternative was do nothing and wait for the case for change, and that was an alternative as a commissioner I was not happy to accept. So I think it's important that this focus on the short term is get opened, which can be opened for the women who need it, and many do, and then work on the longer term case for change without prejudging them. And that's really what I've asked the Trust today.
Councillor Gray, you had a question.
Thank you, Chair. The Cheltenham Birth Centre was closed back in 2022, wasn't it? And I'm sure local residents there will be relieved that it's reopening this autumn. So, but it's not going to be quite the same service, is it? So, could you summarise